Hello, welcome back. It's good to see you again, even if it's just through a little screen. Today we're going to be talking about phases, and by phases I mostly mean that of a menstrual cycle, but also like phases of life. So, people who menstruate, you're going to probably relate to this, and people who don't, you're going to relate to the other thing about phases of life because everybody knows the phases of life. But first, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I'm starting my luteal phase, and the thing I like struggle with the most every single like cycle is how your face literally will change shapes depending on where you are in your cycle. So that feeling of like looking botched when you're like in like about to start your period or like on your period, it's not your fault. Your body's just trying to signal that you're not fertile. Yeah, we got a nice little hybrid. I think it's an indica Tomid hybrid for today. It's already rolled, so we're just gonna get to chit chatting. So I feel like the most talked about part of the cycle is like the menstrual cycle because it's when you're like bleeding, right? Like that's when you're actually bleeding. And as someone like who has like premenstrual dysphoric disorder, what the fuck is that? That sounds made up. So premenstrual dysphoric disorder is basically it takes place. It starts during the luteal phase, and kind of like for me, it bleeds into bleeds into 2 days or so into my actual cycle, and so I experienced like a kind of reversal of my natural character traits. Like I'm a person who's usually like very patient, very like laissez-faire, hands off, chill. Like I am driven towards like goals, but like my natural character, I wouldn't say I'm a very like anal person most of the time. Um, but when my cycle is starting to onset, I find myself getting so irritable, so easily frustrated, so quick to snap, and it usually goes to like my hormones level dropping. And so yeah, like biologically, like your uterine lining is starting to shed, there's blood, there's cells, there's fluid coming down. And then after your menstruation, you go into your follicular phase, and I forget which hormone is stimulated by that, but it's when your egg grows within the follicle and you're producing estrogen, and like the egg that's going to drop, or the egg that your body wants to get pregnant during that like part of your cycle will drop. And then there's ovulation, and that's when I'm at my hottest. Like that's when I'm a bad bitch. Like that's when like I'm dropping my tens. And it's just strange to me like how our bodies are, or at least people with uteruses, like our bodies are um so cycled around fertility. And fertility isn't everything ever happened in America, I'll put it that way. But it's starting with like the seeds of misogyny being sown of like where your kids at. You're 30 something, where your kids, this myth of a biological clock. When you're ready to have kids, you will have kids. And if your body can't keep it up by then there are children who want to be adopted. Like they are. But this whole idea of like your value being diminished if you don't have children, or if you're not married, or if you're not catering to a home, it's just another way to box women in, or not just women, but yeah, it usually is. It usually is. It usually is. It's a way to box them in. So the hormone levels decrease during the luteal phase, and that is what triggers menstruation. Because your body's like, oh, it's been a certain amount of time, the egg's been sitting here, you didn't get pregnant, I'm about to rip the wallpaper off this hoe and make you want to die. So that's how it goes. And um, you know, PMDD is so severely misunderstood that it's usually just brushed aside as like PMS, but a little bit more severe, when it's just so much more insidious and sinister than that. I'll say, like, ever since my cycle started, I have been dealing with like PMDD in some shape or form, but it really kicked off once my cycle started getting heavier, like once I like kind of hit second puberty when I was like 19, because I started my cycle when I was like 12. So like 7 years goes by, I'm like 18, 19, and my period just starts getting so heavy. And with that, my hormone levels were decreasing to like levels unheard of, okay? Beyond unheard of. And it just made my menstruating experience torturous. I did not want to talk about it. When I could feel it coming up, I wanted to avoid it. Like there was no part of menstruating, even crying into like ice cream, like how like people who menstruate usually do. It was more than that. I wanted to die. I was hearing voices. I was going crazy, and I would bring it up to like the primary care physician on campus when I was this was happening while I was in school, and it would just be constantly brushed off and like pushed to the side and like, well, have you I am so tired of birth control being seen as this cure all. It isn't. It isn't a cure all. It isn't. It is not. And I'm not saying that to diminish people who have experienced benefits from birth control, because you should be able to have access to it if you want. But if I'm telling you I am about to crash out and tweak out on Universal Boulevard, and your first instinct is, "Yeah, let's get this heifer on some fucking birth control. Therapy first, maybe, please, please." So I did that because I didn't want to be on birth control. Therapy was what was going to help me, not just like sticking another hormone fluctuator at the wall and hoping it sticks. So I go to therapy, and it is a woman doing the therapy, and my therapizing me, a white woman, but a woman nonetheless. So I'm thinking she's going to be able to understand, recognize me in some way, shape, or form. And I was like, yeah, I've been looking at like symptoms, like I've been Googling my symptoms, and I think I have PMDD. She goes, what's that? I put on, because during, like before you go to therapy, you have to do a whole intake form. There's a whole process. So I fill it out on my form, and I'm just like, damn, I'm having to explain it to this woman who has been practicing mental health for 20 plus years, and it's something she doesn't even know about. If you or a loved one has experienced 5 or more of these symptoms prior to your period, during your luteal phase, it's not like, and I'm saying this like not in like a way that's like bothersome, because anybody could experience these things. Like you could literally have an event like in your life, like during your luteal phase, that triggers all these feelings. So I'm talking about like something that is purely hormone based. Like regardless of what is going on, you feel these feelings. You could be having a great week, you could be having a shitty week, you could be having the worst week of your life, you could have shit your hands and clapped the day before. But if nothing is really happening, things are staying consistent, and you're feeling at least 5 of those things, I am telling you, before it gets worse, go get some aloe. Okay, so PMDD symptoms. First, I'm going to talk about PMS symptoms, and then I'm going to talk about PMDD symptoms, because there is a lot of misinterpretation, and there's not a lot of ambiguity between the difference. Like there are some overlaps, but there literally the list of PMDD symptoms is twice as long. And the more of these things you experience, obviously, the more it's going to impact you. And I'll talk about like how like I treat it now and shit like that, because it is a chronic disease. Like it does not go away until your period stops. So um, the difference between like PMS and PMDD is like 3 things: it's duration, it's frequency, and it's the intensity of like what it is that you're feeling. So for PMS, it's kind of I don't want to say it's typical, but like it's diagnosed when like you just have like a it's just these combination of things. And more than likely, if you menstruate, you have experienced PMS at some point. Headaches, bloating, cramping, insomnia, acne, breast tenderness, sugar cravings, irritability, mood swings, anxiety, depression, and sleep disturbances. PMDD, okay, is 5 or more of these symptoms, again, present during the luteal phase. And it's not bothersome like how PMS is. Like all of those things can be, and it's not to diminutize people who experience PMS. It's just there's levels to this shit. And when we accept that there are levels to this shit, the people who need access to more help can get it. And it's not looked down on. Headaches, bloating, cramping, insomnia, acne, breast tenderness, sugar cravings, irritability, mood swings, anxiety, depression, and sleep disturbances. And now we go into the extreme. Okay? Bouts of rage, joint pain, muscle pain, hot flashes, extreme fatigue, appetite changes, difficulty concentrating, feelings of hopelessness, suicidal thoughts, bouts of extreme sadness, and decreased interest in usual activities. So I'm telling you right now, I'm telling you, if you have experienced these things, and when you try to tell a healthcare professional, a loved one, a friend, a therapist about these things, and they're like, well, maybe it's just PMS, advocate the fuck out of yourself. Do not allow yourself to be gaslit. Not gonna help you when you're in the office asking for help, but their version of helping you is putting you in a straitjacket during a wellness check. So protect yourself, keep an eye out for it. Because this shit, I don't, and it's a shame because it's not like research, I feel like, as much as it should be. Um, that's just me. That's just me. So I don't want to talk about cycles anymore. I'm about to experience it. I don't need, we don't need to chat about it anymore. But what we will chit chat about is phases in your life and phases in existence because there was just an eclipse last night. It was so bright. It was so beautiful. I'm on the East Coast, so it was visible at like 10 o'clock, 10:30, and it was so beautiful. And you know, the moon lives her life according to like phases, and we do as well. Even if it's not in a way that we necessarily identify or like pick up on, we do. Also, another thing, um, for me personally, this will be the last thing I say about looking up things, but my PMDD affects my memory severely, like really bad. So if I start spacing out, looking off to the side, losing track of my words, just forgive me. Like I really can't help it because I've forgiven myself. So yeah. So we live our lives according to these phases, and when we don't recognize the phase that we're in before we matriculate to another one, we usually find ourselves like reliving it, meeting the same person over and over, being in a similar situation. We're destined to rehash all of these moments in our lives until we learn whatever lesson it is that we were supposed to get from it. So I'll say, like, for me personally, the biggest example of having this was like with romantic relationships. Like, prior to meeting Mr. Man, well, that's a lie because I met Mr. Man a long time ago. But prior to getting with him, um, I found myself dating the same person in different like forms. So like I'm dating different people, yeah. Like I'm dating like a black man, a white woman, Hispanic man. They're all these different looks and they're still acting like the same fucking person. If you do not break the cycle, you will just create another link in the cycle. And it's like, how long do you want to be doing the same shit? Because I realized things in my life didn't like change until I took out the things that were just old and not serving me anymore. It's like, and it doesn't necessarily equate to like thinking that you're above certain situations because some things you just have to experience. You just got to go through shit. There's sometimes there isn't like a happy ending or like an easy way out. You just have to wait for like life to come to that gradual conclusion and that gradual ending. And typically you'll feel it. Before like a powerful move or transformation in your life, shit will flip. Imagining your life as like a tall cup and the water's filling up and it's like if it's filled to the top, you want to add more water. Water has to come out. Like you either are going to pour it out or you're going to try to pour more water in and more water's just going to come out the side. When you're trying to like add something new or have an experience that you've been pushing off for a while that you don't think you're like deserving of or that you don't think that it's the right time for, when the time presents itself, that is the time. Like when you see an opportunity and you're like, damn, that seems really cool. That is the time to do it. There is no better place to do it than now. There's no better time. You have everything you need. have know everything you need to know, just do it then. And I'm not saying there's no such thing as like preparation, but if it's something that's like within a window of time, then you should do it before that window closes. You don't want to look at a shut window and be like, damn, now everybody's coming around. You're like, I could have hopped through that window. Like I could have really done it. Like I could have hopped through that window, and everyone's like, well, you didn't, and now the window's shut. Every opportunity you have, you owe it to yourself to jump towards it, regardless if you think you're deserving of it or not. And especially if someone else sends you a fucking opportunity, go for it. Someone's like, I thought of you, and I think you would like this. I'm telling you, I believe in like subconscious communication to a degree. If someone is like thinking of you and they know you to like the degree to where they see these opportunities like pop up in their life and their instinct is to get it to you, that is a real ass individual. And secondly, that is a piece of you within them speaking to you. Like you have explained enough about yourself to this person for a part of your personhood to be like with them. So they're thinking of you because they know you. So is that not you prompting yourself, like a past version of yourself, nudging them towards a future version of yourself with this opportunity? I don't know. That's just how I think of it. But yeah, it's like once you see an opportunity that kind of could mark the end of the chapter you're in, you might not even get it or not, but simply like working towards that goal, it solidifies like the trust you have in yourself. I feel like a lot of us are talked out of trusting ourselves. I know me personally, I struggle with self-doubt a lot. I still do to a degree. And for me, my self-doubt manifests as indecisiveness. I feel like everybody else in my life would be better at making a decision about shit than like me. And that's just not true. Like, you know what you want. Like, you know what you want. Like, you know what you want to do. It's either like you're afraid of what other people will think, you're afraid of failing, but it's like what you want to do, figure out the best way you can do it, and then try. Like, for me, um, writing has always been something I've been interested in, but like my hobby ship kind of like matriculating through grade school was based on like what I thought would be good for me in the long run and not what I was genuinely interested in. So like why write fiction when I could be writing nonfiction? Like I have AP exams coming up. Why not just write nonfiction? And now I'm an adult and I'm like, damn, I've always loved writing fiction. Like that's always been something I enjoy. And I'm just now getting into it. And I'm not saying that I'm too old for it. I'm literally 21 years old. Like I have lots of time. But why not start earlier? Like if there's a book in my head that's begging to be written, why would I not just write it instead of trying to counteract my true nature? And I think that's where a lot of like self conflict derives from. Ooh, I'm me shaking. We're gonna put a pin in that while I smoke this. So if you've rolled up a joint or anything, like smoke with me, bourbon, and talk about Garfield with me for about 5 minutes. I watched Zombieland like Zombieland Double Tap about like a week and a half ago, and like at the end there was like a post credit scene with Bill Murray and like I'm a press run for Garfield 3. I forgot that like Garfield 3 was not real. Garfield 3 did not happen, but I have Garfield 3 and I'm going to read it. If Garfield 3 were to exist, which it should, and which, God willing, it will, it'll be this one, okay? Garfield Gets a Life. This book is what the American populace needs to be turned into media. I'm trying to tell y'all, listen, this book, the movie only needs to be an hour and 20 minutes. It doesn't need to be very long. It doesn't need to be 90 minutes. Okay? It just needs to be an hour and 20 minutes. You've easily 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. Easily. During this club scene, just make that me, ho. We gonna be cool. Give me a producer credit and have that be me. Well, it'll be copacetic, okay? But I really love this book because I feel like it kind of just reflects like the overall apathy and like a lot of Americans have. And I'm not gonna say John is boring at all. A single mom who takes care of a badass fucking orange cat and a dog. So I'm never gonna hate on my boy John Arbuckle, okay? Never, 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 never. Like I see myself as John a lot as I get older. Like the more you work and the more your labor is exploited, the less emotional bandwidth you have for like everything fucking else. Shorty on TikTok was talking about some cashiers don't say hello no more. No! Oh my god! No! Do you know how exhausting it is to talk to every single person? Every single person, and you can't even fucking sit down? No, I don't want to say hello. I don't even want to be here. As someone who's been a cashier at many, many places. While I was working at Disney, though, they did like encourage us, like be very friendly with guests, not customers, guests. Okay, they encouraged us to be very friendly and talkative, and I would have some really cool interactions, you know, with people because of that. And usually, when you start that friendly, people aren't going to be a dick to you. But it sucks when you like speak to someone and they don't even reply, or like they don't expect you to like that you're talking, that you like have an opinion, or when they start hitting on you. And if you're like removed from that bubble of customer service work, so you don't know how, you don't remember or don't never learned at all how fucking deplorable it feels sometimes, consider yourself blessed. Consider yourself blessed. Internal conflict. I feel like a lot of internal conflict comes from us working against our true natures and our intuition. For example, okay, you will make your life harder the less you listen to yourself. I thought that I was going to go to a certain university and get a certain 4 year degree and have a certain career and then get a certain 2 year degree and then get a certain doctorate. I didn't want none of that shit. I wanted shit that sounded impressive that was tangentially related to the things that I loved. I met so many people in the past 4 years. I would say easily like 200 people I have worked with, lived with, loved, interacted, became friends with, some degree, shape, or form, easily. And none of those things would have happened if I wouldn't have hopped off the railroad track. Years and years of being in like a culture, especially if you like have a Caribbean family, you know, from an island to the mainland, working, working hard, like really, really, really hard, cleaning houses, doing, fixing cars, being a secretary, being learning, being an accountant, then getting more education, providing more for their family. Like you see these people do these things, and it's like I have to go big. Like, what was the point of them coming here if I'm not going to make them as proud as possible? And it's like my family's still proud of me. Like, yeah, they may have critiques of like the way that I do things, but I feel like they're going to do that with anybody that you love. But your family, like the advice that they give you, they really don't want to see you hurt. And that's really what it is. Like their advice is out of a place where they don't want to see you in pain because they love you. And I think that that's the reason why, like, I kind of just went that way. Like, went the way of just getting like the 4 year degree and doing this and doing that and doing this because I thought that's like what was expected of me. But you can't live your life for others. Like it's your life for a reason. You have to live it your way or you will be in conflict with your true self. The growth you want only comes through self-examination. Like you can't run from examining yourself. You will either examine yourself or you will be faced with situations that will force you to. So do it voluntarily or involuntarily, the options are. When it comes to like resolving that self conflict that you may have with yourself, that war you might be waging with your true self, look at your shadow. when we talk about like shit like destiny swapping, listen, I could go on and on about Ice Spice and Cleo and how Isis was just destiny swapping. A destiny swap is never permanent. Okay? If shit ain't for you, you will not get it. If shit is for you, you will never miss it. So I think that like, ooh, yeah, she got like a good year and a half or 2 years or something of fame. The Cleo about to pop off. Watch. Like watch. Like watch. Like watch. Like it will happen. It will happen. Because that's the way like life goes. Like, come on, that's the way life goes. But when you are looking at like your shadow and you confront your shadow and the self reflection and the self examination you do comes from your shadow work, that can never be replicated. There's that type of shit that can never be replicated often. Like that's just it's originality in its truest form. Because it is you. Like that essence of you radiates. Yeah, phases. If you want a phase of your life to end or a phase of your life to start, something has to end and you have to start something else. So as you're removing something, replace it with something else. To a place of just genuine thought and genuine consideration, you'll notice that the next phase of your life you move into is so, so different than what you were living in before. It's like for me, I have screen time. I'm sure I've talked about this before. I feel like I think, and my ego thinks it's a flex. It's not. It's not a flex. I promise it's not a flex. I wish I was more on the internet. I genuinely do. Like, I genuinely wish I would just turn off my screen time sometimes because there are so many jokes that just got a damn clue about. Excuse me. Once I started cutting my screen time back, I was like, okay, like on Twitter and stuff like that. I was like, well, I'm still gonna end up using my phone during that time. If I want to be on my phone, I'm going to be on my phone, even if it's me scrolling through my fucking photos. Like, I'm I don't care. If I want to dissociate from reality and focus in on this Black Mirror, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Started doing Duolingo more instead. So my screen time runs out was the first app that I'm going to is Duolingo. Bullshitting on my phone, I better be bullshitting for some type of benefit. Like it has to be worth something. As of me recording, I don't remember anything that I just said. It's literally been 30 minutes. I had to take a phone call. Fuck whatever I was saying. As of right now, September 18th, 2024 at 1:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Letterboxd has not been working for me since 10 a.m. And Letterboxd, the relationship I have with Letterboxd, okay? Because let me tell you about how much I love movies. And then Letterboxd is the place where I put my opinion on all those movies. If Letterboxd ever goes down, all of my knowledge of all the movies I've seen the past 4 years suddenly disappears. So I need them to lock in. I need them to be okay. It is available. But yeah, this being the year that Destiny swapping is reversed and all that, I'm gonna circle back to that before I close out what I'm saying. Um, live the most true, unauthentic version of yourself that cannot be replicated ever. And if it is done so, it will be a shoddy replication at best.